I've got some great follow-up on this story about U.S. Ambassador to the Netherlands Piet Hoekstra or Hoekstra. Some people told me after last week's stories the way that his last name is pronounced. He has finally admitted that his claims about the no-go zones in the Netherlands weren't true. This started to get attention when a couple of weeks ago Piet Hoekstra told a Dutch reporter during an interview that claims that he said there are no-go zones and the burning of politicians in the Netherlands were fake news, and then minutes later he denied ever having called it fake news. It was bizarre, right? So to start this out, this is what started the entire controversy back in December. Speaking of threats, at one point you mentioned in a debate that there are no-go zones in the Netherlands and that cars and politicians are being set on fire. I didn't say that. That is actually an incorrect statement. Yeah, we would call it fake news. I never said that. But I said no, it's not what I said. The Islamic movement has now gotten to a point where they have put Europe into chaos in the Netherlands. There are cars being burned. There are politicians that are being burned. And yes, there are no-go zones in the Netherlands. You call it fake news, obviously? I didn't call that fake news. I didn't use the word today. No, okay. So this is already completely outrageous, right? Then at a press conference in January this year, last week, Dutch reporters followed up. They did the right thing. They asked him, "Are you going to retract what you said about the fake news, I'm sorry, about the no-go zones and the burning of politicians, or are you going to provide examples of it?" And he looked like a stunned puppy. Here's a reminder of what that went like. Are politicians being burned in the Netherlands in the past? Is that something you believe? Yes or no? I'm not revisiting the issue. Did you read the Dwelt Over the Fireplace from Johnny's? If you're truly an honest and wise man, would you please take back the remark about burned politicians or name a politician that was burned in the Netherlands? Thank you. Why don't you answer the question? Answer the question. This has not happened. And then, with a little bit of overlap with that last clip, here is how it continued, and it was not good, please, if there's nothing. So he has finally admitted that it wasn't true. On Friday, Hoekstra said to a Dutch newspaper called The Telegraph that he was shocked by his own comments and that they are wrong. Quote, "That was a wrong statement. That was just wrong. That one shocked me personally because, while you know there have been other issues in other countries in Europe, you know, that has never been the circumstances here. I am seriously confused about this." He said he was shocked by his own prior statements. Like, he was so wrong about what he said that he shocked even himself. Wow. And if he was shocked that he said it, I'd want to know why. Like, did he say it for political gain, knowing it was a lie? Did he believe it at the time, but he was really confused? How do you explain being shocked by your own lies? And now, I know I've been talking about this a lot lately because of Trump, but is it possible Piet Hoekstra has dementia? And I only ask this because in the interview that he gave last month, he called the reference to his claims fake news, and then like moments later in the same interview he said, "I never said that. I never called it fake news." What explanation is there for that? Like, this guy either is having some kind of cognitive issue or he's just a terribly bad liar. And I commend the Dutch press here, right? We have to commend the Dutch press. I think he is apologizing and expressing some remorse, and now he's trying to distance himself from what he said. But how he's doing it, by saying that he was shocked by what he said. I found my own comments shocking and they're certainly not true. Good for the Dutch press, right? They didn't let this guy off the hook during the press conferences. They stayed on him for close to a month now, and eventually he admitted it. He was flat out wrong. And American reporters should do this. I've said before, when Sarah Huckabee Sanders starts to filibuster and she won't answer the questions and she just moves on to the next reporter has to say, they need a pact in the White House press room, "Hold on, Sarah, you didn't answer my colleague's question." And even if they're from a different news outlet and you want to get your question in, have some kind of pact and solidarity where you're not going to allow what Sarah Huckabee Sanders is allowed to do to happen. And take this as a guide for that. I think it's excellent. Well, I do wonder if you employed the strategy on Sarah Huckabee Sanders or on Donald Trump, she'd walk. They'd back off of those comments eventually. Could take them a week before they decided to retract their statement. Here's how it would go down more than likely until you completely reset the expectations. In the short term, if one day the White House press corps decides to do this to Sarah Huckabee Sanders when she won't answer a question initially, if she just keeps getting the same question, she'll leave. She'll say, "Okay guys, that's it. We're done here." And she'll frame it as the press corps was being childish and the press corps was being rude by repeatedly asking the same question. Over the long term, one of two things would happen: either this would become expected from the White House press corps and the White House would have to start at least making an attempt to appear to answer questions, or they would just stop doing the briefings. And remember with Sean Spicer, when Sean Spicer was White House press secretary before Sarah Huckabee Sanders replaced him, there was a period in there where he said, "I'm gonna start holding the briefings off camera or in my office with only audio recording, and I'm gonna limit who's even allowed to come in, because if you're just gonna be writing lies, what he considered to be lies, you're not gonna be allowed to participate." They will just start punishing people by refusing them access, which I believe if there was total solidarity among the press corps, they wouldn't really be able to do. Yeah, or that any story, any questions pertaining to the Russia investigation would be referred to Trump's special counsel Dorf, or that the president's already spoken extensively about a certain topic. They do have outs. They have outs. Yeah. And they would attempt to use them desperately, but at least make them do that, right? Put them on the defensive.